The next chapter in our storybook Bible is called Joseph Helps His Family. God always watched over Joseph. God spoke to Joseph in dreams, and Joseph used this knowledge to plan ahead. When the famine came, people from all over came to find food for their families because they heard that Joseph had saved up for 7 years. Even Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to find food. But it had been such a long time since they had seen each other, the brothers didn't recognize Joseph. Joseph kept the secret of who he was from his brothers for a while, but soon he couldn't wait any longer. Joseph finally told them who he was. "I am your brother Joseph, who you sold to the Egyptian traders. Don't feel bad anymore because God sent me ahead of you so that I could save people, including you. This famine is going to last for many years. So hurry back to our father and tell him that I am safe. I want you to bring your families and your children and all of your sheep and goats to live near me." Wow, I wonder how his brothers felt. Let's find out. Once Joseph's brothers saw who he was, they all hugged each other and cried. They jumped up and down with relief and joy. Joseph and his brothers talked and talked. The brothers talked from the time that the sun came up to the time when the sun went down. When the Pharaoh heard that Joseph's brothers had come, he told Joseph, "Tell them to go get everyone in your family. I will give them the best land in Egypt to call their own." Joseph gave his brothers wagons, food, and new clothes, and they went back to their father and told him the good news. Look here. Wow, Joseph is waving to his brothers as they take the food and the clothing back to their father. Joseph is still alive. He is the ruler of all Egypt. Everyone danced when they heard the news. "This is all I could ask for," Joseph's father said. "Now I will see my son again. Let's get moving." Joseph's family all moved to Egypt, but the brothers were worried. What if Joseph is still angry with us? We were so awful to him. What can we do? The brothers went to Joseph and said, "Here we are. We don't deserve to be your brothers anymore, so we will be your slaves." But Joseph said to them, "Don't be silly. I am your brother, no matter what. Even though you planned for something bad to happen to me, God turned it into something good." Here's a question. How would you have felt if you had been Joseph and you were seeing your brothers after such a long time? The next story in our story Bible is one that I am sure you are all very familiar with. I think you have heard it before. This one is all about baby Moses. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, was afraid. He was rich and powerful and scared. Even powerful people get scared. What could he be scared of? Well, strangely enough, Pharaoh was scared of God's people, the Hebrews. He thought there were too many of them, and he's afraid that they would try to become more powerful than he was. To make sure the Hebrews had no power, Pharaoh made them his slaves and ordered them to work very, very hard. Even worse, he demanded that all of the Hebrew baby boys should be drowned in the Nile River. Because of this, God's people were terribly afraid too. Everyone in Egypt was afraid. Oh my. During this fearful time, a baby boy was born to a Hebrew mother. She loved her baby boy. The baby's mother kept him safe by making a floating basket for him. She put her baby in the basket and then hid it in the water and the water plants at the edge of the Nile. The baby's big sister, Miriam, hid near the shore and watched over the basket. What happened next was really amazing. Do you know what happened next? I bet you do. Let's find out. Pharaoh's daughter came to the river to take a bath. She saw the basket among the water and the plants and asked her servant to go and get it. When she opened the basket, she was surprised to see a baby boy crying in the basket. Look, there's Pharaoh's daughter, and she found Moses. And there's his sister Miriam. Pharaoh's daughter thought, this must be one of the Hebrews' children. Oh, he's awfully cute. Wouldn't it be fun to keep him? Aha, thought Miriam, I can help her. Miriam bravely stepped out of her hiding place. I could probably find someone to help take care of the baby for you until he's a little older, she said. That would be perfect, said Pharaoh's daughter. Miriam was excited to tell her mother the news. The baby's mother took good care of him. When he was old enough, he went to live with Pharaoh's daughter. Miriam and her mother prayed that he would be safe with her. I think I will name him Moses, said Pharaoh's daughter, because I took him out of the water. Moses lived in Pharaoh's palace until he grew up to be a man. During that time, life became worse and worse for the Hebrews. Eventually, however, Moses helped free God's people so they would leave Egypt. Now there was something besides fear for God's people. There was hope. Here's something that might be fun to do during this time when we all have to stay at home. It says, do an experiment and see what kinds of things float in water. What would you build a floating basket out of? My goodness gracious, what would float? That's a good question. Let's see what happens to Moses in this story. The name of this one is called The Burning Bush. I bet you know that story too. Let's listen and see what our storybook Bible says. Moses was watching his sheep in the hot, dry desert. Suddenly he saw a very strange sight. Flames of fire came from a bush, but the bush didn't burn up. Moses squinted his eyes. He looked around the bush one way, and then he looked around the bush the other way. All of a sudden, he heard a loud voice. Moses! Moses! Said the loud voice. Moses was scared. I would be scared too, wouldn't you? Here I am, he said. The voice thundered. Take off your shoes. The place where you are standing is holy ground. Oh, Moses hurried and he kicked off his sandals, keeping his eyes on the flaming bush. I am the God of your fathers, the voice said. Moses hid his face. He was afraid to look at God. Oh, I would be afraid too, I think. I have heard my people crying in Egypt, God said. My people are hurting, and I have come to save them. Wow, thought Moses. How will God do this? Go, said God. I am sending you to Pharaoh to ask him to let my people go. Me? Said Moses. Who am I to go to Pharaoh? Who am I to lead your people? He threw himself down on the ground before God, but he kept one eye on the burning bush. I will be with you, God said. Moses trusted God. He was willing to do everything God said. God gave Moses the words and the power he needed to talk to Pharaoh and lead the people out of Egypt.